Hello, welcome back. A couple of things have happened. So, number one, the first demonstration of why this unordered list issue had not been fixed was when I commented out the display flex property. And here, when you comment it out, it went from displaying in a row to displaying in a column. So if I click run, now you'll notice that now it displays in a column. Our issue is that the first issue is that, so yes, the solution that ChatGPT provided us with did work. It may have worked. It actually looks like the margin bottom was applied to the bottom of the unordered list. And so that just created some space between coaching services and latest blog posts. In order to visualize this, we could go ahead and add a border, and we could set it to 2 pixels, solid and red. So this will let us see exactly what space each of our unordered lists are taking up. And this will also let us see what this rule is being applied to. So actually this declaration is being applied to the nav bar, our products and services section, and the blog post section. So by me commenting out the display flex, I have adjusted all 3 of these unordered lists, and it's not necessarily what we wanted to do. So I'll go ahead and add that back, and you'll see now that, again, at this point, all of the list items need space between the list items. So all of the unordered lists need to have space added between the list items. And so in order for us to get an accurate correction from ChatGPT, we would have needed to actually present the CSS file with our problem. So what we'll do is, instead of providing ChatGPT with the HTML, which is what we originally did, we'll go ahead and copy the CSS, and let's see if this will allow ChatGPT to solve our problem. And the problem is really with all of the unordered lists. So with that being said, we can adjust our request from ChatGPT a little bit. So let's go ahead and copy the code, and we will go back over to ChatGPT and explain the problem. All right. All right, so now I have reworded the issue, and I basically requested that ChatGPT adjust the spacing between the list items on the unordered list. All of the items are running together when the page is open full screen, and then I pasted the CSS. So let's go ahead and provide ChatGPT with this request.
To adjust the spacing between the list items on the unordered lists, you can add a margin bottom property to the Lee selector in your CSS code. Here is an example of how you can add a margin bottom property of 10 pixels. CSS copy code LE, margin, 010px, margin bottom, 10px. Copy and save share. You can adjust the value of the margin bottom property to achieve the desired spacing between the list items. After making this change, the items in the unordered lists should no longer run together when the page is opened full screen.
Okay, so the first time ChatGPT added the margin bottom to the unordered list, and now ChatGPT has added the margin bottom to the list item rule set. So this could solve the problem. Notice that ChatGPT has just given us the rule set that needs to be corrected. So here again, you need to have a little familiarity with coding in order to at least know how to copy this code and paste it into the correct space. So if we did not know anything about CSS and how to add the code, let's see what would happen if we ask ChatGPT where to place this code. Tell me where to add this code to correct the problem.
To add the code to correct the problem, you should add it to your existing CSS code, specifically to the Lee selector. Here is an example of where you can add the code. You can add this code either to the existing CSS file or add it directly to the HTML file within the style tags. Once you add this code, it should apply to all unordered lists on your website and add the desired spacing between the list items.
Okay, so here ChatGPT has provided us with the same code snippet, but it has added a comment that tells us to add this line to add the margin bottom. So at this point, if we were brand new to coding and had no idea what to add or how to add it, it has given us a little more information about exactly what part of the code needs to be corrected. So here we can go ahead and we can copy this line. And as you can see, it's been added to the list item rule set. So when we go back over to our code editor, we simply need to identify or actually locate the list item rule set, which is here, and we will go to the next line and paste what ChatGPT has provided us with. So now we'll go ahead and run. And again, it looks like it's taking a little bit of time to refresh, but again, it has not really corrected our problem. So again, the problem is that the text is running together when the screen is open full screen. So we don't have too much of a problem when actually I would still like to see space between these list items. And the issue again is here in the unordered list, and the idea that we've changed the display type. So it is now set to display flex. And we really need to have some sort of content justified, and we need to have space added between these, but ChatGPT is really not providing us with that solution at this point. So let's see if there is a way to reword our request to get ChatGPT to give us the answer. And again, I'm trying to really approach the problem as a brand new coder or someone that does not have a background in coding, so that we can really see how much ChatGPT can help us with creating just a simple website. And at this point, it's provided us with a great starting point. The only problem is that I would like to have some space between these list items. And without us being, I would also like to be able to see the power of ChatGPT and how it can be used with brand new coders. So I want to use as little of my knowledge as possible, but I still know what is required to fix the problem in this case. So let's go back over to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT that the items are still running together. So we'll go ahead and copy this code and go back to ChatGPT, and we'll just say the list items are still too close together.
If the list items still need space between them when the page is opened full screen, you can adjust the margin properties for the L and L selectors. Here's an example. By setting the Flex Direction property to column and the Align Items property to Flex Start for the L selector, the list items will stack vertically and align to the left. Additionally, by adjusting the margin property for the L selector, you can add space between the list items. You can adjust the value of the margin property to achieve the desired amount of space between the list items.
Okay, so here we know that ChatGPT is getting closer to fixing the problem because at least now it has been able to identify that we need to adjust something when it comes to the display. And again, we've set it to display flex, and now we're at least in the right area. So here ChatGPT is getting closer to solving the problem, but it has not necessarily solved it. And we're going to go ahead and copy this code and paste it into our code editor, and you will see why. But before we do, it has changed the flex direction to column, so it will no longer be horizontal. The list items will no longer be horizontal, and that is going to be the biggest issue with this fix. So we did want our list items to still be horizontal, and this is going to change it to vertical, which is going to be a problem with the navigation menu. So let's go ahead and copy this and let's look at this solution. All right, so now we are back over into our code editor, and we need to replace the list items and we need to replace the unordered list rule set along with the list item rule set. So here, what I'm going to do is go ahead and just comment both of these out, because I know that we will be using this, we'll be coming back to this. So let's go ahead and paste it. So now we have two new rule sets for the unordered list. We've added the flex direction and we've set it to column, and we've added the align items declaration and we've set that to flex start. So let's go ahead and run, and here you can see that this, if we wanted our content to be vertically aligned, then this would work for us. But thinking about the problem from a new coder perspective, as a brand new coder with no knowledge of, bringing no background knowledge to the table in this case, I'm still unhappy with the nav bar situation. So this is now kind of leading us down a wormhole. So now we have a new problem to tell ChatGPT to fix, and just really knowing that we don't want ChatGPT to go too far down this path. So we're going to undo what we added, and we'll click undo again. All right, So now we are back to the original code where at least we just had that one problem. The problem with using ChatGPT's solution at this point is that it will set all of our unordered lists to a vertical display, and we don't want that, because then we'd have to go back and tell ChatGPT that we want our nav bar to be displayed horizontally. And there's really no problem with the way that it's displayed, but this has presented a very interesting problem for ChatGPT. So it's going to require that we keep going back and forth with ChatGPT and trying to get a little more specific. But each time we get more specific, that then assumes that the person that is interacting with ChatGPT or coding with ChatGPT has a little more background knowledge. So I think at this point it is safe to say that you cannot necessarily just sit down and start coding out of the box with ChatGPT. You do have to have some background knowledge of whatever language you're coding with. So let's go back and copy this code, and we'll just tell ChatGPT that we want our unordered list to still have a flex direction, to still have a row flex direction. So let's go back and see how little we can tell ChatGPT in order for ChatGPT to solve the problem. So I've told ChatGPT that I still want it to
If you want to display the unordered lists in a row, but still want to add space between the list items when the page is opened full screen, you can adjust the margin property for the Lee selector and use media queries to adjust the layout at different screen sizes. Here's an example. By default, the unordered lists will be displayed in a row using the display flex property for the all selector, and the margin property for the Lee selector will add space between the list items. Using a media query, you can adjust the layout for smaller screen sizes by setting the flex direction property to column for the all selector and adjusting the margin property for the Lee selector. In this example, the layout will adjust when the screen size is 768 pixels or less. You can adjust this value as needed to match your desired breakpoint.
Okay. So ChatGPT has provided us with yet another solution, and this is beginning to maybe this will solve the problem. So let's go ahead here. What if we did not know where to add the media query? So let's go ahead and ask ChatGPT where to add this in our code. Where do I add this in my code?
You can add the code I provided in your existing CSS file or add it directly to the HTML file within the style tags. Here's an example of how you can add it to your existing code. In this example, the media query is added after the default styles for the UL and Lee selectors. The media query targets screens with a maximum width of 768 pixels and adjusts the layout for smaller screens by setting the flex direction property to column and adjusting the margin property for the Lee selector.
Okay. I usually add my media queries to the very bottom, but change whether or not this would fix the code. So this is definitely something that could work. So it would work whether it was added after the list item or added at the bottom. The location of where we add the media query does not affect its ability to be effective, but it does present yet another, I guess, aspect that could be frowned upon, because if you are accustomed to organizing your CSS in a specific manner, or in a manner that has been presented as best practices, and then using ChatGPT to code, we are inviting a new group of coders and programmers, and a new group of people into this space. And so by us doing that, we are also setting them up for a future in this space. And we still, they would be in this same space as other programmers or other people that are coding. I mean, it could be a little frowned upon, not necessarily too disruptive, but without following the best practices that the original community has established, it just could be frowned upon. So that's not to say that the solution won't work. So we'll go ahead and copy the code and take it back into our code editor. And here, really, we don't need to copy the entire thing. The only thing that's been added is the media query that will adjust the flex direction of the unordered list and the margin of the list items when the screen is set to 768 pixels in width. But we're going to go ahead, I'm just going to go ahead and copy the whole thing and take it back over into the code editor. And I will delete everything that is here and paste the new code. All right, so let's go ahead and run it. All right, so now this does fix our code. Right, so now the code has been fixed. So we now have space between all of the list items, which is awesome. So now when we go back to, when the screen reaches a certain width, it will go back to column, and actually we can tell the width 768 pixels. At 768 pixels, it will switch over to column mode. And then if we wanted to adjust that, then we could, but this works. So the column, the flex direction has been adjusted, and so has the margin. So here, the difference is that the margin has now been adjusted. And so it looks like originally the margin was 10 pixels, 0 on the top and bottom, and then 10 pixels on the right and left. So this is the exact opposite, which now puts 10 pixels on the top and bottom of the list item and 0 pixels on the right and left. So I almost just wonder if we could have just added this initially, but nope, that wouldn't have been the case because we needed to have both. So here, by having both, now we're able to have that space when it's horizontal, when the flex direction is set to row, and when the flex direction is set to column. So an example of each is, this is when the flex direction is set to column, and here is when the flex direction is set to row. And originally, when the flex direction was set to row, we did not have this space between our list items. And of course, just like I said in the beginning, the danger of this is that it can easily be forgotten that it's been added. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, because who knows how long that has been causing an issue. So let's get rid of that, and yes, this works. So We can now go back over to ChatGPT and let's ask ChatGPT to create a style guide to be used for our website for healthy habits. I'll see you in the next class.